Dogs Talls produce little. The 4 new coaches go 4 for 4 in round 1, but most of all, footy is back. Welcome to the Daz Talks Footy round 1 review. Let's have a chat. And who else but to kick off the round 1 series than a great man, great friend, and a great collaborator. I've been on this man's podcast. I'm going to let him talk all about it in just a second. But he's the great man, Peps. He's from the Lace Out podcast, and he's a genuine superstar audience. So, mate, it is over to you to tell the great people out there who you are, what you do, how to reach you before we get into a cracking round of footy. But first of all, mate, it's a pleasure to have you on the channel.
Oh, thank you very much. It's about 15 all. We had a chat earlier in the year about Hawthorn and their outlook for the 2023 season. So I'm rapt and honoured to be joining you on this, let's just say, very interesting round 1 of football. But Lace Out, because it's how everybody wants their footy. So Chris Pepper's my name, host of Lace Out. We've been going for 6 years now. Me and my co-host, Jamie the J-Dog Wallace, we just love footy, as you can see. I'm a Melbourne guy. So I had a great weekend. He's a Port Adelaide guy. He's a very happy man. I haven't heard from him today, so he's probably still out. But yeah, we just like you guys. We love footy. We love chatting and collaborating with other podcasts, other shows, because you know what? We're all in it because our heart's about footy. We love it. We love our clubs and we love the game, and we want it raw and we want it real. So we go live every Tuesday night, 8 p.m. on our Facebook page. You can just search for Lace Out Podcast on Facebook. But podcast goes out Tuesday nights, Wednesday mornings. Just look like Lace Out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you can find your great podcast hosts or stores these days. I don't know. I'm getting old. I'm 47. I'd just let the kids work it out for me. Tipped out. Then we've got our tipped out segment that we do as well too. So that's our tips. Usually every week it's just me by myself, but J-Dog usually throws his tips in there. And this week, let's just not talk about how we went.
Yeah, no.
But besides that, we just love footy, and you giving me the invite to say, hey, would you like to have a chat? It was like I couldn't reply fast enough because I know your channel is absolutely going great guns, and whatever I can do to support you, I'm here for you.
Yeah, mate, you've been a great help and a great friend of the channel. So let's basically get stuck into this, mate. Now, normally at the start of all these footy shows, we talk about something we liked and we didn't like and all those good things, but I'm kind of twisting it a little here. We're going straight to the stock markets, mate. Now, as you know, the stock market in and of itself is in the can at the moment. So we're going to bring footy to the fore. We're not talking teams, coaches, anything like that. The people that make the game, the players. So whether you want to buy a player a lot, a little bit, or maybe sort of a medium way, mate, kind of sitting on the fence style. A lot of people in the footy realm, especially the mainstream footy media, like to sit on the fence a little bit. And, of course, we're going to sell a player, whether that's a little bit, their stocks didn't really do much for us in round 1, or if we're going to go gangbusters and sell a lot, which is going to get the fans going. But you kick things off, mate. You're the guest. Which player are you buying after an exciting round 1 of footy?
I am going balls deep, cash deep. I'm going deep into the wallet. Nick Larkey from the Northern Melbourne Football Club. You got to remember, last year he kicked 38 goals from 20 games, and he had a bag of 7 and he had a bag of 6 in there. He's got a better coach. They're going to have more structure. You can already see just the way that they were moving the ball yesterday was absolutely magnificent to watch. We were actually fortunate to watch that game towards the end, and we could not. We're going to talk about games a little bit later on, but we could not take my eyes off it. They were running harder. They were running fast, but he was just getting supply. And he didn't have that last year. He's got Harry Shoesel running around. I'm not going to go too early. He's not my big pick because it's 1 week. But if that's the type of stuff that he's going to have coming forward to him, and he had 38 last year, he's come out yesterday, kicked 6. What more could you ask for? He's leading the Coleman. And this is a guy that went in the 5th round of the 2016 draft, pick 73. Yeah, so North have got an absolute ripper there. And I actually tipped him as my Coleman medalist at the start of the year. I just thought, if you go 38 and you're not getting that much supply and you win 2 games, if you win, let's just say 6 to 8, which they potentially could because they've got the best draw in the league, he's going to have a fair bit to do with that. And so put the numbers together, I reckon he's a massive chance. So I'm definitely buying stocks in Nick Larkey because I just love everything about how he plays and also what he does up forward for North.
I still think he's Drew Petrie 2.0 in the sense that he's going to be their guy for the future, but they're just going to put no one else, no other tall in that forward line. I'm going to talk about Charlie Comben a little bit when we get into the North and West Coast game, but I love the Suva. I'm going to buy a man who performed admirably in a loss that no one in Victoria would have seen. Now, we're going to talk about how Queensland footy have started a week behind everyone else, mate, when we get into these games. But Jared Witts, when Gawn, Grundy, English were going off at the G, this man was having 25 disposals as a ruckman in a loss. Now, departed from Collingwood with very little fanfare, has gone up to the Suns with even less fanfare. I think he's won a best and fairest already, captain of the club. If he walked down the street, mate, no one in Victoria would know who he is. I'll guarantee you. I reckon he's even got family members that wouldn't recognise him at this point if they're still down here in Melbourne. I thought he was extraordinary on the weekend, and gee, boy, I'm going to talk about Gold Coast in a tick, but I'm buying Jared Witts. You're buying Suva. So good to see we're not just sticking to the midfielders, mate. It's not a Brownlow segment. But
it is not the AFL. Like I said, our shows, we don't just go for the midfielders. It's not about the people that run around and gather up the posies, because it's the ones who stand out. And you're right about Witts. I think he's, ever since going up to Gold Coast, he's become such a better player. And I really do feel for the bloke, because you've got Gawn, you've had English, who get the notoriety. He'd be up there, the top three ruckman. I'll put it out there. He's better than Nick Nat, because he gets the ball. And that's, I don't care about impact at centre bounces and that sort of stuff. And I love everything about him. And when you said about, obviously, Mr. Larkey, well, he's got that Zerha bloke running around at his feet too. So hopefully they can get they need a third one, though. They need someone. So I don't know if you've got someone in mind that they can help them out, but I really do like the way. But yeah, Witsy, absolutely love him, and great guy to lead the club as well.
I'm a massive fan. Yeah. Now let's get to the sell, mate. And this is a golden opportunity. Now, one of us goes for a team that is probably going to be, we're basically bookmarking the ladder at this point. Your mob's going to be up the top. My mob's going to be close down the bottom, and everyone in between is just going to fall into place. So this is a good chance for you to really piss off one fan base at the moment when we go after one of their players. Now, how much of the stock and which player are you selling after round one?
Oh, I'm telling you, I'm cashing in. This bloke should have cashed in last year. Now, I'm going to put it this way to you. This team I didn't even pick to make the 8. So they're not going to make the 8. And people laughed at me. And then I saw what they served up on Thursday night, which we'll get to later on. Trent Cotchin should have hung up the boots. Now, let's put this in perspective again. He had 67% on field, so the coach didn't even want to put him on. He had 18 disposals, 9 kicks, 9 handballs. Nothing to really rate your game about. 267 metres gained. So that's really not doing anything with it. I didn't even notice him. There were people that we were with going, is Cotchin playing? Like, when you hear that, and it just looked like the game was just going past him from a speed perspective. So he was going at, 4th gear. The game was going in 5th to 6th. He just didn't look like he could keep up. And they've got a few of those with Rewalt's another one, Cotchin, and I've got the third one, Martin. And they just look a little bit behind. And that's where my concern for Richmond was. But you got to remember, this is the guy that put Stephen Cornelio into 2020 or 2018 in that preliminary final and got off. Yeah, we're going to stop talking about the tribunal.
It's good to see you not keeping receipts, mate.
No, don't keep receipts. Let's not talk about the tribunal. I'll throw that in soon. But yeah, I just think that he should have probably gone last year. I think it would have been a better, because I just think that towards the end of the year, he won't even be playing, because they'll just have to replace him, because he's just too slow. And if people want to say that I'm wrong, so be it. People want to say I'm right, so be it. But that's just the way I look at it, and I take the emotion out of it, and I just stick to the facts. And the facts was, I just don't think he added anything that a younger kid could probably have a crack at.
I think that's the take that's more interesting for mine. Could a young kid have delivered or keep delivering? But we'll talk about that. Tyler Sonzi, these kind of guys. That's for a little bit down the way.
Noah Cumberland, another one.
Go on.
No, just Noah Cumberland. Like, you would have thought that they would have needed some
Noah Cumberland,
more firepower down there. Like, they didn't play him, whether it's his defensive pressure, etc. But, okay, you can teach that, but you can't teach people to get faster. If the body just does not allow them to do what they want to do, they're not going to get it. So maybe it was just the first game against Carlton. They wanted the big names out there.
I wonder if he'll be there. Now, I'm going to sell a guy, not for his playing ability, but for where he played, his positional ability. Nat Fyfe is not a forward. He's just not. I'm sorry, Freo fans, you got to find a way to score. He ain't it. You've got Tabernar, who eventually got subbed out of that game. Jai Miss needs to play. I don't know whether he was injured or not. Someone in the comments will tell me. They need to score, Freo. They nowhere near did it. His set shot goal kicking routine looks so bad in terms of he's got no momentum through the footy at all. He's good on the lead, but he's dropping chest marks. I hope it's round one rust. I really do, mate. But yeah, I'm selling Nat Fyfe as a forward. So what an intro that is, mate. Firing shots early, getting around a couple of key position players. But I reckon we talk about what we liked and what we didn't like out of the weekend's games. You ready to go?
I would love to talk about it because we don't want to pot shot people. We don't want to, send them to the stars too early. But this is what it's about. 9 games of this single greatest sport in the world. We're going to talk about it right now.
Let's do it. Let's go. All right, mate. Here we are. Carlton Richmond. We kick things off with a draw. Now, let's get the first thing out of the way. Like or dislike a draw?
Love.
Are you an overtime man?
Nah.
Good.
Nah.
We're on the same page.
I'm old school draw. Because you know what? If you have a draw, you don't deserve to win and you don't deserve to lose. And if you've got 100 minutes of football time, give or take, if you can't do it in the time that's allotted, too bad.
Yep,
I just think that. I love a draw, and it does actually shape the 8. That's the thing. So they've actually got a funny, and they might say they're half a game behind, but if they get a bit of a run on, they're going to have that half a game in front. It's going to make a massive, it always happens towards the back end that the draws always come into it. So leave it as it is.
I like it. Now, what did you like out of this game, mate? Players, teams, what were your big takeaways from a positive? We love positives here on Dad's Thoughts Footy, so what stood out for you, mate?
The crowd.
That's a good start.
It's the crowd. I put it this way. I threw out a message at the end of the night and I said, Plugger Locker kicked 16 goals straight in a game against Fitzroy in 1996. These two teams kicked 16 goals between them. And I had, having a conversation with people and they go, oh, it's a great game. It was a tussle game, etc. And I was like, no, because I do want scoring. These are two teams that were supposed to be challenging for the 8. To be able to score 8 goals each in the first game of the year in perfect conditions in front of a big crowd. I've said it for a while. I don't, because the AFL want a big crowd. I don't know why these two teams get the first game because rarely do they put on it. Like they'll say that's a classic. It wasn't a classic. It was actually a snooze fest for quite a while. There was no scoring and it was hard to watch at times. I will say that they had a good crowd.
That's
I just, and because I could pick so many things about even the last quarter. If you want to go down that route, and if you want to, we'll do it. But there's just things that I saw. I've gone, footballers shouldn't be doing that. Like, there's snapshots from 30 meters straight.
We'll get into that. We'll get into the dislikes. I'm with you. And I've actually got another player, not just a certain Tiger at the end of the game. I've got another one in my sights that I want to talk about. Things that I really liked out of this game. Adam Chera, I thought was awesome for Carlton, especially early, and he had a fantastic final quarter as well. And one of the more underrated men in football, I think he was 3rd on my list of the top 10 most underrated players in the AFL preseason. Georgie Hewitt was just awesome in that middle of the ground. I know he's a handball first midfielder, but when you've got Cripps and you've got these guys rotating through the midfield, mate, look at Collingwood. You need an extractor. You need a Mitchell. You need a guy who's willing to get on the bottom of every pack, feed the ball out, keep the ball moving. I think he does it beautifully. And adding the fact that he's going to have run with roles during the year, I reckon he's just, if Carlton do win a flag with this group, and that's a debate for another day, he's going to be one of those guys that is going to turn up on grand final day and have an absolute belter. I'm a massive fan of Georgie Hewitt. From the Tigers' point of view, Dan Rioli, mate, that was as good as all the halfbacks have been this week. I don't want this performance to go under the radar. He was simply extraordinary. Every time he got the footy, he wanted to move. Now, there's a certain club in the last game of this round that didn't want to move the footy forward. This man wanted to take territory, and he was the only halfback, I reckon, for the Tigers consistently all night that also wanted to work hard defensively as well. So I take my hat off to a few of those players. But the dislikes, mate, and you said it a little bit. You gave us a little bit of a snapshot, you could say, over what you didn't like in this one.
Well, just a couple of things too. Morris Rioli Jr., I just liked the way he started off the game. He had a bit of lightning about him. Also, he looks like he's dropped a bit. And so he looks like he's got that. He's a lot quicker on his feet. Around that forward line, he was dangerous early. And I just thought that every time he went near the ball, something was going to happen. And the other one was Lewis Young from Carlton. I just thought that he was really admirable throughout the game as well. And you mentioned a little bit earlier about Hewitt. You've got, like, I brag from Melbourne. We've got Clayton Oliver. Like, he spent the first 5-6 years of his career just handballing. Like, you've got to have an extractor. Like, not everybody can be the sizzle on the steak. Somebody has to be the actual meat behind it all. And so you've got to have one to get it out there. So for that sort of thing, I'm fully behind it. But I was just really peeved by just some of the silliness that goes on. Like I said, I'm old school, so I played footy for 26 years. And if I ever did a snapshot straight in front from 30 metres out, I would probably have never played a game for East Keeler, who I played for, because it wasn't the thing to do. Where is the set shot gone? Where I don't understand it. It doesn't make any sense to me, because they don't run and then snap to kick it straight when they're on the run. Why do they have to think that we have to snap around the corner from straight? It doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. And what staggers me is it's happening more and more, and they're missing more and more. Lynch missed one. Mm-hmm. Bolton missed one.
Yep. Harry McKay certainly get Harry definitely
missed two last quarter. Yeah. It's just that it just blows my mind that it's if they're forwards, that's what they're there to do. Don't make it more than you need to. Just keep it simple. Like if you have a look at Plugger Lockett, simple kicking action. Lance Franklin, simple kicking action. Dunstall, like all the greats had a simple kicking. Keep it simple. It doesn't have to be difficult. 3 steps and you kick it. It just infuriates me when I see that.
I'm not sure I'd call Bud's kicking style.
I know he goes on the arc, but it's the same thing.
He's got the same action. So. The weird thing is with the Bolton and Mackay, I don't know whether this is because one's a right footer, one's a left footer, or they both just do it wrong. But Shea Bolton hits the belly of the ball, so he gets no turn on the footy, which is why it seemingly floats in the air. Whereas Harry Mackay genuinely hits the point of the ball, so he gets too much spin too early. He looks like he comes out enough. He looks like he aims for that far goal post, which is what you should do when the ball curves. The point is that by the time it's hit his foot, it's already moving, and that's why it glides across the goals. And, mate, I was with you. I was on the couch with a very passionate and towards the end of the game, Farrell, Richmond fan. She's a beauty, my girl, and even she was perplexed at why Shea, 25 out. But he's not a good goal kicker. He kicked 45-45 last year or something like that, Shea Bolton. He looks like he's got no confidence. He wants to do things on instinct. The more thinking time, the more rushed he seems, which is completely opposite to what you want. So I'm with you.
And he went in quick too. That shot he took, he literally took the mark, I reckon no more than 5 seconds. He then started his run up because he probably had to look at the clock and then went, okay, I'm going to win it. You know, if you want the big dollars, you've got to. They're the ones. No one cares about the big boundary. They're the ones that they're not going to replay. Yeah. He slots that. That'll be the one that'll be replayed at the Brownlow. That'll be replayed at the end of the year. They're the ones. A simple. Doesn't have to be complicated.
I'm with you. And just before we move on from this game, so one of the ideas that's been bandied about. Now, I know I'm against it. I know you are too. So we're not going to rant at the silliness of the idea. But this whole 3 kicks each, 40 out directly in front, penalty shootout style. Now, I'm not for it. However, when you think of the guys that kick around the corner, Stevie J, it started with Stevie. I'm going to blame Stevie. Why not? But you look at Shea, you look at Harry Mackay, they would not be any of the goal kickers for their teams at all. Whereas, like Tom Hawkins would be for the Cats. Jeremy Cameron wouldn't be, in my opinion, for a drop punt for the Cats. No way. But for the Tigers, Shea's not there. Definitely not. Lynch will. Do you know why? Because he kicked the clutch goal with a drop punt. And went straight through. But you look at
forward in the league.
But you look at. Did you just say overrated?
Yeah.
Oh God, come
on. I could go all day on that one.
We've had but we need to move on, mate. But at the end of the day, we're for the draw. The only question that I want you to answer before we move on: who's more disappointed that it's a draw? Do you reckon coming out of this game? Do you think Carlton or Richmond?
Carlton.
Yeah, I think Carlton as well. And you know
what?
It's
the third game in a row. It's the third game in a row where they should have shut it out and they didn't. Melbourne, but I think Collingwood.
Yeah, I'm of the belief that Carlton are more disappointed, and that tells me they're a better team.
And I think that they've been telling us for years that we should be smelling what they're cooking and the green shoots and everything. And That would have set their season alight. And now it's gone, is it the same old Carlton?
Yeah, well.
Because of
all right, that's Richmond and Carlton all set up, mate. Let's move on. We're going to talk about a genuine cracker on Friday night. Mate, plenty to love about this game, including the scoreboard for everyone that loved, and I appreciate all the kind comments in my video after the Carlton-Richmond game, but this was the high-scoring classic that everyone was looking for. The Pies take it out, mate. Extraordinarily good game of footy. Struggled to get that out. In terms of what you liked, mate, I'm going to go just on a limb, and I'm going to say something that no one's going to be thinking of. That Nick Dacos kid's pretty good. Not sure if you've heard of him, but he's pretty
stuck
new
under the radar.
Team. Yeah,
he's just from.
No one's talking about him, but I reckon he's got something.
I don't know the last time a player's come out and had a better first game in his second year than he had a better first game in his first game. Like, he's just getting better. When I saw the stat line, he had 35, no pun intended, with his dad's number. I just think, does anybody put any time into this kid? Like, I know they keep
Finn McGuinness did in a trial game and Hawthorn got laughed at. Turned out it was probably the right decision.
But I don't understand it. And that's the other thing. We could talk about taggers as nothing. But when a guy is tearing it up and you can see that he is tearing it up, why didn't anybody go to him? But what also sort of shocked me a little bit was I tipped Collingwood to miss the 8. And that one might come back the road to the roost because they were more electric than last year. Their running capacity, don't know what they did, but they have just got faster. Howe's going to be a big loss, massive loss for them, I think. But he is one of a kind. You can take your Horn Francis, and you can take any other top 10. He's the one. He is a ripper, and his brother's pretty good too. But mind blown with that kid.
His brother's the best kick in the league, and his opposite foot, in my opinion. Josh on his left is extraordinarily good. What else I liked from the Pies, mate, just before we move on, a couple of the debutantes were very handy. Mitchell, 21, 2 goals. I think he had 11 clearances. Did everything that the Pies needed, almost as if you put an extractor in a midfield that likes to run with Crisp, DeGoey, these guys, it'll work. Extraordinary. Wouldn't have thought it. And for the Pies as well, Bobby Hill, forward to centre, loved the pickup for the Pies. He did some really nice things. My God, he kicks the footy hard. We'll talk about the Cats in a second, but was there another particular thing that you liked about the Pies, mate?
Look, their backline stood up. Darcy Moore's Ollie Henry, Darcy Moore. That was a story within a story. Ollie Henry goes and kicks one. Moore tackles him in the goal square. A bit of push and shoving, and that's the stuff that we love. Both teams went attacking football, which was it was a complete opposite to what we saw the night before, and it was still a close game. That was lovely, but from a backline perspective, John Noble, he had 29 touches, 637 meters gained. He's just one of those players that he's just doing his role, but he's growing in stature. He's one of those ones that you go, John Noble, who? From an outsider's perspective, I can tell you now, as they would say within the 4 walls at Collingwood, they'd be going, Noble, in, because you just know what you're going to get with this guy. And he looks like one of those ones that you thought, are they going to be able to take a step up in 2023? And from what I saw, it's only one game, small sample size, but I reckon that they have got another ripper there. And once again, you could go through the list. Which Dacos do you want to talk about? Which, even Tom Mitchell, your old man. I thought that was a mistake in going to Collingwood. What are they going to get out of him? Shut me up pretty quick.
I'm not saying he's going to win the Brownlow, but when I talked about him as a Brownlow smoky in my preseason videos, I do understand that people went, I think you're overrating it a touch, and I'll happily put my hand up for that. He's not winning the Brownlow. That's not going to be his role. But I loved everything about it. DeGoey looked awesome. The one thing for the Pies that I didn't like, mate, and I really had to think hard about this, and it's so stiff, but I think it needs to be pointed out. Will Hoskin-Elliott had probably the worst first quarter of a player this season. He had 7 touches. He had something like negative 40 meters gained or something with his first 4 touches. He had 5 turnovers. He missed a tackle. He had a couple of his kicks. He was just having a nightmare, did Big Wilbur, but he was pretty good in the second half. So I can't even knock him for the whole game. Not that I want to knock him at all, but geez, that first quarter, I think he had 5 turnovers in total. It was just everything was going from bad to worse for the great man. So, look, it's harsh, but I think the Pies were simply outstanding. But let's talk about the Cats, mate. What did you like?
It was the same old from Geelong, I think. Dangerfield, Isaac Smith, Atkins, Myers, they were their disposal winners across the ground. I don't know. It's another year You got to remember, Geelong really didn't start firing up until probably round 10.
Yeah.
When they really ramped it up.
Mm.
So for them to have a loss early, I think disappointing, unveiling the flag and that sort of stuff. I don't read too much into it because they've got the greatest run where they play 11 games or 10 games at GMHBA. So there's 10 wins basically locked in. But if they put in performances like that again against quality running teams, they're going to find it. They're going to find it hard. And I keep saying it is that aging list has to catch up with them at some point. It has to catch up with some point. And I thought Zach Tui was playing full forward Dunstall because he was lining it up in the first quarter and where's this been? And then didn't hear much from him from there. So I think they relied on their usual ones as well too. And I had a bit of a suspicion about his. I actually didn't think he was playing, which was the Tomahawk, but might have had a bit of ring rust as well too.
And he was underdone for sure. I think Danger was as well.
Yeah, so it's the first game. You know what to expect, but Collingwood, really blew me away with what they delivered.
Yeah, and the other thing that I didn't like as well was just the genuine carnage in this game, whether it was the MCG surface, which, look, I'll let the experts decide how much of it was the fault. We know what Chris Scott said, but with Sam DeConning went down, Jeremy Howe, we know that had nothing to do with the service. And Paul Tyson Stengel getting forgotten in this, the courage to go back with the flight in that contest was unbelievable. And we hope that Jeremy Howe's surgery, at the time of recording, we haven't heard how the surgery went, but we hope that it went well. And I know there are other guys that kind of got knocked around a little bit as well. So plenty of carnage in this game, mate. But what a win for the Pies. I loved it. Let's move on. Let's get into the start of Saturday. And that would have been North taking on West Coast. No one expected this to be a pretty good game. West Coast kicked 3 of the first 4. And we just thought, here we go. Same old North. They kicked it into gear. West Coast came back. I actually really enjoyed this game.
I loved it. So there was probably about 8 of us guys all the way for the weekend, camping with the families, and we were watching the kids in the pool at the same time, but watching the games on our phones. And one person started watching it, then went to 2, and then by the end, everyone was just crowded around watching. It was a cracking game. It was a fast game. That was one of the things as well too. And look, give the guys credit. They were playing in the oven. That was Marvel Stadium that day. I think it was, I don't know what it was in Melbourne but it was 36 where we were. To be playing in that, and when it gets hot in there, it gets hot and it gets humid. But the quality of that game all the way through, especially for the last half, is when we really got stuck into it. It was just back and forth football. And I could not be happier for North Melbourne winning this because a lot of people have picked them to finish last. And look, they possibly could, but they were playing a team that was also expected to finish quite low. They had 4 wins between them last year. And if you looked at the two teams on paper, you would have gone with West Coast with all their premiership stars in there, their experience, etc. But even though it was a close game, you could walk out going, one club's got a really bright future and something that you can see we can go with, and the other one being the biggest club in the land.
Yeah.
And they look just completely lost. Like, what's their direction? If I was a West Coast supporter, I'd be like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Are we rebuilding? Are we challenging? But we're in no man's land. We're doing nothing.
Yeah.
They're doing nothing at the moment. But North, kudos to them. Beautiful, beautiful. Loved it.
So let's talk about the likes now. We know that there's a debutant that we're going to talk about right at the end, mate, because he deserves his own airtime. Luke Davies-Uniacke. Now, when Matty Lloyd called him Chris Judd-like, we all giggled because at that point he was unproven. I am not suggesting that he is Judd-like. But that burst away from stoppage, that initial sidestep once he gets the footy. I know Jai Simpkins won the last 2 best and fairests. This man is going to be something special at North. I genuinely loved his game. But what I'm enjoying about him the most, mate, is his ability to work defensively at the contest as well. He stopped Shuey a couple of times, stopped Tim Kelly late in that game, getting out the front of a stoppage as well. Something in his game I haven't really seen that much. He took the genuine PI 55. We know another young man did as well, but LDU, frightening. And the guy that you build your midfield around, and considering, Will Phillips play, George Wardlaw's got to come into that midfield. Cunnington's still there. All of these guys, he is one, and everyone else files in behind him. He's a star.
I absolutely love the hype. And you remember when his first couple of seasons are like, where's he going? Like he was a little bit in, he was out, and just couldn't find his feet. And I don't know whether that's to do with the coaching side of things. Sometimes players just play out of position. they try them somewhere to start, and it doesn't work. But I'm a massive fan of the hyphen. I love him, just everything that he brings. But he's got a bit of spunk about him. And you see, when he gets the ball, you know he's going to do something with it. He is an extractor. He can burst. And to say that there's a burst player at North Melbourne, you wouldn't have said that a year ago, 2 years ago. But now, like I said, Wardlaw didn't even play. And then this other kid that comes in, you think, oh, okay, he's got a first game. Why didn't the other one get a go? But all right, well, good luck, young man. All the best for your careers. Jeez. Like, what can you say? And to not even go ahead and pick Goldstein, ballsy call.
And then Sherry goes down real early.
Really early. So the backup, and I'm looking for his name in a moment, you just watch what he did. He just did what he had to do. He played his role. He made contests all around the road. Hugh Greenwood apparently had to go into the ruck a couple of times.
Yeah, but Charlie Comben's the man you're thinking of.
Comben, like, mate, you put him up, regardless of, put him up and say, mate, you came on with, no preparation. You were maybe expecting to go on a lot later in the game. Someone goes down, you're stepping in, and you've given the service to these guys in the middle. Like, if this Borat, it would have been high five, sexy times, because that is exactly what you want out of a young player to put his mark. And Goldstein will probably come in, but when Zeri gets back to health, they've got a really tough decision, because if Compton keeps doing what he does, well, then what do we do? Do we go down the Goldie route? He needs 10 games for 300, or do we go with the young combo? Yeah, there's questions that they've got, and they've got something about them North that West Coast don't.
Yeah, well, West Coast, I'll talk about their likes in a tick, because there's plenty of things that I didn't like, but the one thing that I liked from West Coast, and it's kind of like, oh, it's about time. The draft does work. Ruben Jinby looked awesome. His attack on the footy was great. Guess what, West Coast? If you don't do that well, you don't need to trade away all your draft picks. Campbell Chesser, okay, he was quiet. He had some moments. Noah Long, that kid's got some spunk, I'm telling you. So the Eagles right now just need to get as many games into those kids as they can, strip it back at the end of the year. I do agree with Kane Corns, and that's a sentence I don't think I'm going to say a whole lot of in 2023. They're in trouble, list-wise. They're in the deep caca, as it were. I thought Oscar Allen was good on his return, except kicking for goal from 1.5 meters out. But, geez, this is a team that is looking for positives anywhere they can get them. The Eagles, and they're few and far between. But the last positive, mate, the number 3.
I have one other one. Liam Ryan. Okay. Sorry, one West Coast. Liam Ryan, like, it was probably the only thing that really stood out from a forwards perspective. Like, they didn't really have much. And for all the challenges that he's had, good to see him actually get some scores on the board too, because that was really only one of the main shining lights for the West Coast. But yeah, I think all the kudos has to go to North with this one. It's really hard to sort of pick out any more good things than that. But yeah, Oscar Allen for his first game back definitely added something. In Gimby, there's your other Smoky. There's your other Smoky for the rising star.
Oh, okay, something like 11 tackles, 15 tackle attempts as well. So he's sticking his tackles. But that number 3 draft pick, how do you like your burger, mate? With Shees, my goodness, the Sheezel himself. Now, look. This didn't come from nowhere. However, of those that watch under 18 footy, and I don't have kids or a social life, so one of those is me, saw this kid as like Toby Green 2.0, up forward, centre forward, damaging, got the footy, kicked goals. He got put to halfback flank like 28 days ago and took a bit of the PI55 in the second half. They've just put him on a back flank and gone, all right, young man, over to you. What do you got? I've got 34 touches at about 80% efficiency. Frightening, genuinely frightening, this kid. And hey, the big Will from Brisbane, who didn't put up a whole lot in his debut game, and that's okay. 34 touches. Look out, the Shees. My goodness.
I think they were saying it's the most possessions in a game in 10 years.
1991.
Yeah, 10 years or something like that. It's 20 or 10. I said 10 years. I think it's a lot more than that. But it wasn't, when you just watch players and you think, Pendlebury's the ultimate. It just looked like it's like the Matrix, and everyone is just slow around them.
Yeah.
Everyone was slow around him. Every time he got it, you just knew that probably after his first 10 touches, you go, he's going to hit a target. He's going to do something with it. He's not going to panic. And like I said, you get Wardlaw in there as well too. North, North have got a reason to go to the footy. They've got young forwards. They also did that. They also did that without Ben Mackay.
Yeah.
They didn't have their main backman in there, and they're still able to negate it as well. So if I was a North Melbourne supporter, I'd be sitting back going, you know what? I didn't go last week, but big damn, I think I saw enough to maybe go and buy a ticket. Might not buy a membership just yet, but I might go and buy a ticket to see if it happens 2 weeks in a row. So they, when they play this week, and I don't have it on right at the moment who it is, but it's going to be awesome to see whether they can back it up. If they've got a toughie, it's going to be a real challenge. But if it's going to be something like for like, they've got Fremantle and Optus. What a statement game that one's going to be for those two teams. So, yeah, I really like what I saw from North and not much from West Coast, unfortunately.
Yep, I'm with you. So just before we move on, final shout out. 3 years ago, Luke McDonald, there was a meeting per source. There was apparently a meeting where Luke McDonald's future was up in the air and there was a vote. Do we keep him or do we flick him? And apparently it was 3-2 to keep him 3 years ago. So if one of those votes goes the other way, he's not on a list. He's captain and he was awesome. So I'll shout out to Luke McDonald as well, mate. But I'll tell you what, there were some embarrassing performances by some bad teams on the weekend. I don't think anyone expected the embarrassing performance by a good team that was served up, and that was Brizzy, who, of all the ways to lose a footy game, they lost it in the midfield. Neil, Ashcroft, Dunkley, McCluggage, the like. This was just, wow. We'll get to Port. Trust me, we'll get to Port. But, mate, what a statement game in the worst possible way by Chris Fagan, recently extended team.
I'll tell you what, you mentioned a moment ago where, Will Ashcroft, and good luck to his career because I reckon he'll be an absolute jet. He had 22 other mates. No one turned up. They didn't turn up. Now, I don't know whether this was an example of Brisbane on the road first game or it was a case of, I reckon we'll be right. Brisbane have at times when they travel, we'll be right.
Yeah.
And it was close early, but then it just blew out again. And I know there was another young guy who people like, people don't like, based on the situation, what happened at North last year. But look, if Port play like that again for the remainder of this season, first of all, they'll be playing finals, but they have the capacity of top four. If they play like that, I don't trust them to do that for the entire year. But they were quick boys, spread the goals around. Georgiades, all I heard was Georgiades up forward. They had Fantasia on the same park. Speak to the Eston blokes, they were like shattered because they can't get him on. He finally was able to get some minutes. I don't know. They just, the old brigade, the new brigade, they just did their thing. And that really surprised me, that result. And it just got worse. As the game went on, it just kept growing. And is it a sign of what Port were getting better at what they were doing? Or were Brisbane, like their forward line, Danaher and Hipwood, like they've got their own twin towers, but they're not firing at all.
Eric Hipwood, let me just put it this way. Eric Hipwood is very lucky Nat Fyfe laid an egg. Otherwise, I'd be selling his stock too. My goodness.
This is the way he finished. Like, he finished that final series off. I know the game against Melbourne. He was probably one of the best games I've seen him play.
Yeah.
You'd think that would lead into the next season. No, not at all. And so it's not the start.
Crazy, right? Because I'm actually going to say something positive about Brisbane here, because we're going to get into the stuff that we liked. It can only get better, can't it?
It can only get better.
It has to be the worst they play for the entire year. Otherwise, everyone on the planet, including them, are wrong.
Well, apparently they've got the best list in the league. Apparently they've got the best midfield in the league. They got smashed. Brisbane don't get smashed. Neil, Dunkley, Zorko's in there, McCluggage. Where do I keep going? Nothing.
Well, let's get into the likes, mate. We'll be here for hours. What did you like? Yeah.
I'll let you go first. Leave this on with me for a moment. I'll get you to go first, and then I'll quickly jump in.
All right, because there's a guy that we need to talk about who wears the number 18. So we'll sort him out a little bit in a bit. Junior Rioli. I'll keep to the cultural awareness there. Junior was awesome. That was not a mark, by the way, but geez, I'm glad it was paid. I'm so glad it was paid. And the candy, the kick in the goal was awesome. It was great. I want to give a shout out to Lockie Jones, kick 3 on the weekend. I can't say that coming into this year, I was a big buyer of Lockie Jones. And hey, one performance, you just got to react correctly sometimes in the footy circles. He was terrific, I thought. Big lock. Connor Rozee, I think, did his job. But what worries me about Connor in terms of where he's rated amongst the league is he did get talked about a lot in the post game, but I don't think he was their best player. I don't think he was even in their best 3 or 4. Todd Marshall was great. Loved his game. Zach Butters, my man, is just, my goodness me, he's just my man. He's my man for a reason, and I love him.
Butters don't get you, Rosie does. If Rosie doesn't get you, Butters does. They never sort of like go together. It's always one or the other. If they could just gel.
Spot on.
Absolutely.
But the other like that I want to give, and it's to something that I've criticized heavily in the past, so you got to be balanced. Well, you should be balanced. That's what I say. Their backline structure, with and without the footy, Port, were equally impressive in that second half. And I was more impressed without the footy than I was with. The amount of times that Neil McCluggage, we even had Rich and Kitty Coleman break away and have to stop, prop, and look up because Port had them outnumbered by 1, 2, 3 down the line was ultra impressive. And if that's the part of the game that they need to go to another step, I know they're going to chase Ben Mackay heavily to be that one-on-one guy against their forwards, but I liked the way they set up behind the footy as well. So just everything that I liked in this game just happened to be from Port. I think giving Brisbane positives would be like giving them excuses. I'm not inclined to do it, mate. But there's one man that we need to talk about, and that is Jason Horne-Francis.
Who?
Yeah, he crossed from North to Port without a lot of fanfare, without a lot of talk. It was, one of those deals that was very hush-hush. So he's got something.
Has he gone to Port?
He's gone to Port, yeah. He wears Zach Butters as number 18 now. So
okay, how did he go?
Well, for the first half, he was good, and then he had 11 disposals, 5 score involvements in the third quarter, and just went, "Hello, I'm here."
Honest. Did you see his goal Did you see the extraction goal that he? Like if that doesn't excite you, you're talking about the hyphen earlier on. Like that was just a perfect example of a bloke that knows how to play footy, and it frustrates me that it's not at North because I am a traditionalist in that perspective. But that was cream. That makes you sit back and go, yeah, I can understand why they wanted to get him. I can understand why there was so much talk about him. Like one piece of play, and you just went. Yeah. And he's not a small body. He's a big boy. Like there's a photo on AFL.com.au of him and Will Ashcroft in the same thing, and you just see Horne-Francis, and it's just like the super heavyweights taking on the lightweights. It was just not even comparable. But brilliant first up game. He had his 25 touches, 532 meters gained. But a couple that I really want to pick out. I've picked on this guy so much over the last number of years, and on Lace Out. And my theory is if they ever play a top 8 team, he doesn't do anything. If they're playing a bottom 8 team, he dominates. Charlie Dixon. Yeah. He's kicked 3. He's had 14 disposals, but he's had 10 marks in that as well too. So he was being a presence, sharing it around, getting goals on the board and making it difficult. And having Marshall down there and Junior Rioli, like amazing. Just so happy to see him and put me wrong. Now, once again, it is only week 1, but we can only go by what we saw.
Yeah, correct.
And that's the Charlie Dixon that we want to see more of as well too. I think Sam Palpepper has found a nice little spot in that half forward line. He just gives him an option. He's tough as nails. Absolutely love the way that he goes about it as well too. And one player from Brisbane that he's been around for goodness knows how many years, Daniel Rich. Like I think he was the only winner in my eyes that I could see. I've never seen this. He had over 1,000 meters gained.
Yeah.
Now, I've always talked about meters gained being a fudge stat, if you know what I mean. Like, it doesn't really add much if you sort of look at it. But to have 1,000, I've never seen 1,000 meters in a game. So there's a guy who's not just getting the ball, he's kicking it long. But what does it also say? It kept coming back a hell of a lot for him to keep sending it back the other way. And one last one out there, wasn't it good to see just 2 ruckmen going at it all night?
Yes.
McInerney had 33 hit-outs. Lysette had his 26. It was just 2 big guys smacking it. And I reckon there would have been probably 30 contests where the umpire went, now who's going up for the ruck? The same 2 blokes that have been here for the previous 29. Like, is that the stupidest rule that you have to nominate somebody when there's 2 6'11" blokes standing there and you have to say, yeah, it's me and it's him? Come on, AFL.
Wouldn't it just be easier to throw the ball up and if 2 blokes from the same team go for it, penalise stupidity?
Is it that hard to just go, 2 people go up and if a third one does, free kick?
Yeah.
How hard is it? How hard is it? Unbelievable. Yeah, but just to see that, but yeah, there was a lot to take out from that. You know, Gunston got on the board, didn't really do much. I think this win said a lot more about Port Adelaide. But Brisbane play Melbourne next week in Brisbane.
Yeah.
That's going to be an interesting one. They don't want to be starting their season 0-2.
Yeah.
Not at all. Not at all.
And lastly, I'm a big believer in coaches in the AFL. I don't care who you are, whether you're Clarko, Brendan Bolton, or wherever you stand on this spectrum. No coach, I'm big on this as a player as well, but coach, I'll strip it back even further, should not be signed for longer than 3 years at a time. Look at what Port Adelaide have done since Ken was on the last deal of his contract. They went and got Horn Francis. They went and got Junior Rioli, which helps, of course. They did pretty well in the draft for the lack of picks that they had. And he's now playing guys in their proper positions. Rosie is a permanent mid. Oh, you think? Todd Marshall's playing as a leading forward. Oh, you think? Because he doesn't have that body on him? My goodness me.
No, I mean, come on. It's interesting. Players, when they're on their last year, tend to sort of, work extra hard. They should just keep players to one. Yeah, well, it's a bit of this, but they know that if I don't play well, I'm not going to get any of this.
Yeah, correct.
And when players go on long-term deals, and I also look at it from young players' perspective. I think if you go on a long-term deal, like I know there's been some, Petrarca's on one, and I'm going by my club. Petrarca's on one, Oliver's on one, Salem, I think, had 5 years.
I think Viney's on 5 as well.
Viney's on 5. Even Lever had a decent one, and May had a decent one when they first came. But they built the credits up in the bank beforehand.
Yeah.
But they, I think they gave 7 to Horn Francis. Well, I can see it after 1 year, but that's still a lot to put in a young kid. But some of the contracts that they give out now, you sit back, why? It is, especially when it goes into their probably mid-30s. So some of them go into when they're 33, 34, 35. And if they're midfielders, and we've seen it with Fife already, that a midfielder cannot automatically find another position somewhere on the ground. It doesn't work that way. So it might come to bite them in the butt. Same with coaches. If you're rebuilding your list, you go for a longer-term coach, but you have to get the right one. So I know North went with Clarkson. He had the tickets on the board. Rebuild him. Ken, interesting one. It's an interesting one.
We love.
It's a great part of it. We wouldn't have a show. We wouldn't have shows if everything ran smoothly, would we?
Yeah, that's true. If everyone knew what they were doing, we wouldn't say anything.
We wouldn't be here
from this game, mate, because you get to indulge here. That is your D's taking on the Doggies. Now, I have to confess something here, mate. Now, I'd had a few ciders. I'm a cider drinker, actually, and bourbon, but I was having a few ciders over the weekend because the aircon in my joint wasn't that great. So when I'm sitting in 30-degree heat, I'm enjoying a couple of fresh apple ciders, let me tell you. And I changed my tip from Melbourne to the Doggies when I read that Stephen May was definitely out. And 3 minutes into this game, I looked at my beautiful partner, Sam, and I went, I've stuffed up. This is not going to go my way at all. It didn't, mate. The D's were great. You can engorge, if you will, over your footy club, all the things that you liked. But before you do, the one Bulldog that I want to give some love to, Adam Treloar, was awesome. You can take it away with your footy club, my friend.
Well, I'll go on about it because I do go on about the D's. Look, everybody goes on about their club, but I'll keep it real because I am a realist with this as well too. I think the thing that I took the most out of this game was how they finished off. Mm-hmm. Yeah, from Melbourne last year, I know they won their first 10, but there was always something about it. I even called it a false economy at one stage because it wasn't convincing.
Mm-hmm.
And there were stages in that game they were challenged, and they just pushed it. Like they were running in waves, like stuff that we saw back in 2021. I know they've said that they've been fitter. They've been doing a lot more running. They've been putting a lot more work into their sessions as well too. Their ball movement. The ball movement was the big thing as well too. If you know Melbourne, what they used to do quite a fair bit in is the way that they play is that they push up quite heavily. But if they have to defend the other way, they go almost too far. And so they have to wait and wait and wait. And when you don't have your key forwards, you don't have McDonald, who, that's another story for another day, but he is that vital, that team as a leader. When he wasn't playing, you had to wait till Gordon got down there or some, and it just slowed it up. You always knew that they'd go out to the left-hand side. You knew they'd always bomb it in. The ball movement, the number of goals they got out the back was just beautiful to see because people were running. It was layer running as well too. So one person would take the mark. The next person who's coming through would go. It was just, you just knew someone was there. There was more red and blue in the screen than red, white, and blue. I know Cozzy Pickett's not going to be playing for the next 2 weeks. I can understand why he's got 2 weeks, but Cripps won a Brownlow, didn't he, for doing something that put a guy
come on,
knocked
mate.
out?
All right. Hang on.
I'm just saying.
No, yeah, hang on.
The act was dodgy. The act was wrong.
He was lucky to get 2. But here's the thing. We can't, as footy fans, sit here and say, the wrong decision was made months ago, so we need to make a wrong decision now. That's 4 for me. He jumped off the ground. He turned himself.
If you knocked him out, no issue whatsoever. No issue whatsoever.
You can't judge action. You can't judge.
I'm just probably a little bit facetious on this one, but look, I loved his game. Ben Brown, shave your head every week, please. Don't ever grow those curl things back. He just looks leaner. He looks fitter. The usual mob: Petrarca, Oliver, Gawn and Grundy will work. You saw it, and that was my concern when I went into the game. I was really worried about having their tall forwards, the 4 of them. Were we able to keep up with that? They did. A couple of debutants. Bailey Laurie was serviceable. Judd McVee down back. You saw something in the preseason. Would he be able to take it to the next level? Has a beautiful little sidestep on him, which caught a few players out.
Strong in there. He's got good core strength, that kid.
And one other one, Cade Chandler. He's been subbed so many times. He'd been an emergency. Finally gets his chance. And I think within the first quarter, he had 2 bullets into the 50, pinpoint. One to Gawn and 1 to, I think it was Pickett. And I'm just sitting there going, why hasn't this guy been playing? So to have 4 players out and for them to do what they did to a team that I thought would really push us, that was beautiful. That was really nice to see. Got to be realistic though. I can enjoy it for the next day or 2, and then we play Brisbane, who got absolutely humiliated.
Yeah.
What are they going to serve up to? But it'll be good to have Fritsch will play. Someone just stood on his foot at training. That was it. Viney had a bit of a sore knee, and last year they weren't cautious when people were injured. They sort of pushed them through. This year they've gone, no, if you're not right, we're not playing you, because they don't need that second half fade out. So a really good start to the season, really happy with it. And like I said, the faster ball movement was my biggest takeout on that as well.
I like it. The other man that I want to give a shout out to, I know Channel 7 talked about Jake Lever a whole lot. Adam Tomlinson in this game for mine was awesome. He lost 2 one-on-one contests all night. One of them was a free kick, which he definitely did. And the other one was just an outrageously good mark by Norton. For the rest of the night, he absolutely did his job. Tomlinson, I thought he was awesome. The only other thing about the Bulldogs, mate, because we'll talk about things that we didn't like, I think we'd be a bit nitpicky for the Ds. When you win by 9 goals, you kind of just cop the bat and move on. The Dogs, I think, were coached and the team selection was horrid. Who thought this was going to work? I'll tell you who. The footy media that needed conversation. Here's my question, because the 4 talls had 8 scoring shots between them. I don't care who was on the ground, when, for how long. 4 of them, 8. That's 2 per player.
Not good.
I'm worried about how much faith they've got in Jamari Ugle-Hagan as a number 1 pick, as this forward, as this Jeremy Cameron 2.0 that I think he needs to become, and not a one-on-one contested mark kind of player, that they needed to go get Rory Lobb. And they acted like they needed Rory Lobb because they went and got him like hard. They went after him hard. And right now, none of them looked dangerous at all outside of Aaron Norton, who, lo and behold, was good last year.
I think Darcy, look, I can understand why they did it, because they tried it and it seemed to work. Darcy, if you remember his first few games last year, even his debutant game, I think he had 6 big contested marks down back, and it was like, okay, we've got something there. Let's try something with 4, because no one will know how to handle 4 big forwards. But the thing is, as soon as that ball hit the deck, it was out of
Cody
there.
Waitman wasn't there, and Latham Vandermeer weren't there, so Melbourne just walked it out.
I think it can work though, but Darcy has to go down back. I don't know why you want to rush him forward. Don't rush him forward. Ugle-Hagan, there were things I did actually like that he did. Like he's leading at times. I actually thought he was probably their most outside. Norton, every time the ball goes in the air, Norton's dangerous. But outside of that, there was nothing really else for me to go, well, I'm worried about Norton here, but Ugle-Hagan seemed to be pushing up the ground quite a bit. And
which I think he needs to do. Which
is what I think is how he needs to play. He's not big enough to be a key muscle forward.
Yes.
He needs to be that run around forward. And I'll tell you, there's a perfect guy who played for GWS today called Toby Green. Just have a watch how this guy plays. Like, he's not the biggest unit out there, but he just makes position and puts it on the scoreboard. That's all you have to do. So I don't think there's much to worry about, but it's going to be that issue that we spoke about earlier. You got to get him in the right position. Get him there and leave him there. Don't keep messing around with it, tinkering it, etc. as well too. But yeah, definitely the other one you mentioned with Adam Treloar, he could hang his head up high because he had an absolute cracker as well too. And one other one, which I have a lot of time for, is the Ginger Ninja down back there, Ed Richards. I just think he's almost become their most important backline threat, because when he gets the ball, his efficiency is actually really good, and he spends a hell of a lot of time. Like, he had 87% total on ground, so he's there. So he's a fitness machine. I love the way he has got better and better as the seasons have gone on. So I really liked when he got the ball, he ran. You know that he was going to hit someone. So great to see.
I like it. I think Bailey Williams deserves a bit of credit as well, although he did have a couple of nightmares in that last quarter. Let's move on, mate, to the Gold Coast and Sydney. And if there was a game this weekend that went perfectly to where I thought it was going to go this week, and there wasn't many of them, it was this one. This game was, I think, out of all the ones across the weekend, this was over the quickest. 8 minutes into this game, they had 4 goals to nothing, and I went, it's the same old Gold Coast. It turned out to be. We'll talk about the things we like. We've already talked about Witsy, so we'll move on from there. But the first I'll talk about the Suns here, Took and Matt Rowell. No real surprise there that they'd show up. Maybe Rowell because of his injury history, but fully fit, we know he's a gun. But, geez, they lack quality, Gold Coast, in a big, big, big way. And I do worry about the 2008 Hawthorn Premiership hero, Stewie Dew, in his role as coach, mate, because right now their cattle looks soulless.
Oh. You know, when you said this was the most predictable game,
I
didn't think it'd be predictable. I think they even picked Gold Coast for this.
Jeepers.
Yeah, I think I picked Gold Coast because it was going to be hot up in Gold Coast. I haven't been to a game in Gold Coast, but apparently it is, no pun intended again, dewy. It's hot, and it's not the greatest conditions to play in. So I thought, and having Ben King back, sorry, I take that back. He wasn't back. I thought, okay, they're going to start. Apparently they were cherry ripe. And then when we saw the scores, because when you watch the game on Fox, they also have the score in the corner.
Yeah.
And after a while, you had to switch the phone on to go, is this correct? Because this is not what I expected. I thought Gold Coast would make a real show of this. And I thought Sydney would have been in a bit of a lull after the way they finished the season. It was completely flipped on the script. If you talk about, we're talking about young guns in the league. How could you not? We know there used to be a guy at there is a guy at your club called the Chad.
Yes.
There is another Chad and there's a new Chad. And he's the Chad Warner. He is number one. He was their best player in their grand final last year.
Yep.
He's come out and had 30, 700 odd meters gained. Like, he's just...
He can win a Brownlow, mate. It won't be
He can win a Brownlow. Like,
yeah,
you can look at it and go, he can win one. And it wouldn't be a flash in the pan one because you have seen it building. But you're right, though. Miller and Rowell, they did their bit. Jake Lloyd, obviously, down back as always.
Dane Raby was...
Errol Goulden.
Oh, best name in footy.
Gracious. What a name. Like, it's a great name, but the goal that he kicked, I think he was in Surfers Paradise when he launched that one. Look, that went 65 easily. And it didn't look any. I think you only. Another one, Bodie Uland. I got a tip that he'd be playing his first game by one of my superstar listeners, Tommy Roker, the greatest Gold Coast supporter you'll ever find. He said, you watch, he'll be playing. And a nice little serviceable 20 disposal game. But if I want to pick out one negative at this stage, it just has to be from Sydney's perspective. It's that Buddy Franklin high hit. Like that's when players are getting older and they get frustrated because they can't do what they normally would do. They start to do. I used to do it as well too. You just
what? Okay. Help me with this. Bud kicked 53 goals last year. How is he in decline? Okay, is he the same that he was a decade ago? No, but he's not decrepit.
No, he's not decrepit, but one season to the next. It's just little things. It's like death by 1,000 cuts. You don't make a contest, or you can't jump as high. Well, he never jumped all that high anyway. But it's just it's just little things after little things. You can't tackle, you can't get to that sidestep. It might be, and it just frustrations build out. I just think it was a sloppy act. That's all it was. Yes, I don't think there was any malice in it. I think it was just a sloppy act. But I still, mate, if you can get 40 goals out of him, because you've got Isaac Heaney, because you've got Errol Gordon, because you've got Luke Parker who's still going around doing it, you've got the Chad. Logan McDonald, he doesn't have to be the 50-plus goaler. He could be a 40 goaler and still contribute. So I just think it was a sloppy one. That was my only takeout from it. But I'd have a 36-year-old Bud playing for my team any day of the week. Let's be honest.
Yeah, 100%.
I know there'd be a lot of clubs that would want him.
And there's plenty of things that many players can be doing throughout the week, mate. But if I was Charlie Constable, who's on his last legs as a footballer, delisted from Geelong, picked up by Gold Coast, I'd be practicing that ball use, my friend. You picked up 26 touches, but I think after 19 of them, he was going at 28%. So maybe he can clean that part of his game up.
No. I think the only other sort of negative to come out of it was that the forwards didn't fire. Ben King did play. Sorry, I thought he wasn't. But the forwards didn't fire. Like the ones that we thought would absolutely dominate, Child King and Casbolt, had one between them for the night. And 15 touches between them.
Yeah, not a good night.
That's not a good night. So that might be just, hey, you know what? Let's forget about it. Let's move on. But you're right. Dewey could be, which I hate to say because I just love the bloke. I reckon
I do love him as well. But I'll tell you what else we love, mate. There has been, now, I'm just going to ask you quickly, is there anyone in the entire league that you can claim you were onto first? Genuinely onto first. Not like Damien Barrett claiming he found Chad Warner, because he didn't. Is there someone in this league, player, coach, whatever, that you reckon you can claim you clung onto first?
Robbie Flower? That's as far back as I can go.
Found Robbie, did you?
No, I didn't find him. No, he was the greatest ever, for my opinion, but from a Melbourne perspective. But no, I can't. I can't think of anyone that I've gone, I'm going to brag this one, and I'm going to like $1 million. Well, no, there's not that I can think of. You've stumped me, and it's very hard to stump me.
I like it. I'm segueing beautifully because I'm going to give myself a pump up here. In my, I think it was third ever video, I made the claim that whoever hires Adam Kingsley as a coach is going to succeed instantly. And let me tell you, mate, didn't that come to fruition when the Giants turned it around against the Crows, who not only couldn't kick straight, they choked a 27-point lead or whatever the hell it was. The Giants midfield was humming, mate, and Adam Kingsley, he's got the rig of a man that could play centre-half forward these days, but he's clearly got the Giants playing an exciting brand of footy. I thought their rebounding was awesome, but for the Crows, oh boy, mate, it's back to the same old mediocrity to kickstart a season. They're going to need to turn it around.
Yeah, well, I was fortunate enough to watch the last, I think, quarter and a half of this game. That's all I needed to watch because it was a belter. They said this could go down as one of the GWS's greatest wins ever. And when you look at the score, 106-90, that's not a big deal. They were playing in 33-degree heat up there. By the end of the game, there were players had cramps on their cramps. They couldn't move. Nick Haynes took a mark. I don't know if you saw this. He took a mark. It was 50 meters out. They're saying he was cramping up as he was walking back. He couldn't give it to anybody because he tried to, and the umpire said, no, you got to go take a shot. He slotted it, and as soon as he's grabbed his groin, he's grabbed his hamstring. The players were out on their feet, and it was a true battle of attrition. And the Giants, for a long time, probably since their grand final year. You wouldn't see that from them. They'd probably fall in heat. They just kept going. They didn't have any players. They virtually didn't have any players left on the bench. Injuries. Kelly had been injured. Whitfield had got injured. Toby Green, the player everybody loves to hate. I love him. If he's my love child, that's my love child right there. I just love everything. The passion, the love. Just when people want to leave the club, he's saying, I want to be here. He wants to be. He'll go down at the moment as GWS's greatest player. Full stop. Right. Hogan looked fit. A couple of their young kids. I've got to remember to look at their name in a moment. Finn Callahan, I think that's the one. Yeah.
My man.
I just look at them and go, great win. Just that's a win that can set the culture of your club up for the year because you can draw. Guys, we were out. We were done. We had nothing. We had no one on the bench. There was nothing left in the Bay 5 snack bar. The Gatorades are all sold out, and we still came back and we were able to. That's what we can draw on. Awesome. And that has a lot to do with the coaching. I reckon even the last 5 minutes of the game, Kingsley was out of the box. He was on the boundary, just talking to his players. Come on, we've got to keep going. And look, that's the mark of a guy that you look at and go, you made the right choice.
Yeah.
Maybe a lot of people didn't see it coming, that he was the one, because I know Uze had been in on it and a few others. I reckon they've got the right person for where the club needs to be, because that club has still got a lot of quality on its list.
Yeah.
And they can be a big
he still needs to teach them how to play footy. I'm sorry. Leon Cameron, I don't know what that game plan was, but it was a nothing game plan. I think knowing the youth, and they've just got to go, keep going. There was a little bit of the Richmond pressure, but what was different in this performance for mine versus what we saw from Richmond in a lot of their premiership years is it was built on the midfield out with pressure added in, whereas Richmond, where Kingsley came from, was started with pressure and then built in towards that midfield. Richmond's midfield outside of Dusty was serviceable without being awesome throughout those premiership years. That's not a knock on Richmond. They were the best team, of that 4-year period by far, and it really wasn't that close. But what impressed me is Stephen Cornelio. Right, he wasn't a great captain. That does not take away from the fact this bloke is a star footballer. Tom Green, he's handball first, but like you say, mate, Clayton Oliver, who cares? He looks like Xavier Ellis's long-lost son. Does not make a difference at all. He's a bloody star. I genuinely think this was the most impressive win of the round. Am I crazy for that?
No. Why would you be crazy for it?
Just asking.
Callum Ward, I think he started playing in the black and white days. When I saw him running around, I had to check and go, did they say Ward? Because out of all the retirements that have had, whoever, Davis, etc., Mumford, all these people that have, and he was still going around. I'm going,
Phil Davis.
He was like, you want to talk about somebody who really set that win up in that last quarter. He was one of them. Yeah. He was hitting targets. He was running like the heat wasn't affecting him. Well, actually, funny enough, if you ever saw the footage of the game, I thought there was nobody at the ground until I realised they were all sitting in the grandstand in the shade.
Yeah.
And there seemed to be a bit of emotion at this game. There was a bit of raw. I don't know if Channel 7 or Foxtel were pumping in the audio, but there was something there. And you're right. Like Hogan looks like he was when he was at Melbourne in his first season. Like he looks fit, he looks lean, he cares. Like I said, Finn Callahan, I just love what he does. But yeah, Green, Cornelio, also. But you know what? You also got to put your hand up for Rochelle, Rankin. Like they were the only really two dangerous. I think Fogarty towards the last quarter also looked like he was going to be hitting the scoreboard. Are they going to steal this one away?
With the MRO.
Yeah, but every time, I haven't seen that one, but every time Adelaide pushed back and closed up the score, because they did get a run on in the last quarter where it was getting really tight. They just found a way. And then Tex Walker gave away a stupid free kick, and that's basically the one that got him across the line too. So if you want to have and you look at it, was a soft free kick. He didn't need to do it, and it was done at the wrong time, and that cost them that last goal, which Haynes put through and put him across the line too. So, but yeah, I was really, really happy for G. I have a bit of a look for Gold Coast and GWS. I have a soft spot for them both because I do want them to succeed. Probably Gold Coast a little bit more because GWS have had their time.
Yeah,
a great win considering everything. They had no one. They were out on their feet and they grounded out. That's one they can look back and be proud of.
I like it. And just the last player that I want to give some love to, the insider himself, Isaac Cumming. I love this man as well. He's James Sicily light at the moment. His intercept marking, his pace, his ability to hit targets. I love everything about IC. He's a star. I love him. He's a star to me. He's not a star of the competition. I know that word gets thrown out a lot, but in here, in the heart, in Daz's heart, he is a star. Now, I don't know we're going to spend too much time on this game, mate. I hope we're not going to spend too much time on this game because...
Just one last thing before we go to the Hawthorn game. One last thing. Have you ever seen a sit better than the one that Harry Himmelberg got on his mark out on the outer wing? Like, he could have sat on a deck chair with a pina colada. He was up there for that long. He's like, I don't even have to move. Like, they go mark of the year. Well, I'm telling you, it was sit of the year by the length of the Flemington Straight. It was absolute. That's what a great game is all about. Just marks. Love it.
Yeah. Legends say he's still sitting up there, Big Harry.
He's still there.
He's still
turned
there.
the lights off, and he's still there.
All right, let's get to this game, mate, because I was a little bit late. I got home from seeing a friend for her birthday, and it was about halfway through the first, and things weren't going so well for my Hawks. And we got back into it. The Chad delivered some magic. Carl Amon kicked an absolute perler from the boundary, and I'm thinking, here we go. Here we go. And then the Bombers went, here we go. And it just turned into a genuine nightmare. That second quarter was bad. That third quarter made the second quarter look unbelievable from the Hawks. And then the last quarter was inconsequential. I do want to talk about the Bombers, though. Bombers fans who might be thinking, you're a Hawks fan, all you're going to do is bitch, whine, and complain. I'm really not going to do that yet. I need to give love to the Bombers, mate. Their ability to transition from the D50 to their forward half was unbelievable and something that Brad Scott has brought to the table. Ridley, Laverde, Redmond. I'll put my hand up. I was wrong. Their transition was unreal. They deserve all the credit in the world. They were fantastic.
All right. I can't stand Essendon. Essendon people know this. I can't stand them. Can't stand them.
That's a great way to start.
Just can't stand them. All right. Essendon people, you can hate me for it. But when you've lived near Essendon and you've had to put up for it for 47 years, you get where I'm coming from, right? Geez, you guys played all right today. You played all right. And when I say you played all right, you played all right. Here's why. I actually went in saying no chance. As soon as 2 meter Peter went down, I went, how are they going to kick their goals? I literally could not find a reason why. Well, Perkins kicked 3. And I've said ever since he cut his hair, it was the worst thing. It was the whole Samson debate there. Cut your hair, you seem to be nowhere. He's come out and had his equal best result. But then, Wiedemann comes out and kicks his 2, which I'm so happy for because
I thought he
just needed to go. Yeah. He needed a fresh coat of paint. So, if he goes and dominates, as long as he doesn't do it against my club and your club, that's great. I hope all the best for him. But then it's these ones. Redmond kicks 2. Draper kicks 2. Menzies kicks 2. And then Setterfield, Ridley, Jones, Davey Jr., I could keep going. But it was the spread of goal kickers. I don't think I've ever seen a spread that big from an Essendon team for a long time. And even go and have a look at their best. Well, Merritt obviously has stood up. Parrish, he's almost been that tambling Franklin with Oliver and they were so close to each other. It's like, I should have got this one over that one, sort of thing. He's just got better the last few years. It's almost like when he went onto the ball. Oh, could he play on the ball?
Yeah, like they drafted the midfielder. Put him on
draft the midfielder. Once again, another dumb decision. But he just looked right in it. Laverde, Setterfield. I love what Redmond brings to it. They just look quick. They look fast. The delivery, their skills are a lot sharper. What more can you say if you're an Essendon supporter? Like to start off the season, and also. Can I say, I don't normally say this, 68,000 turning up on a pretty crappy Sunday afternoon. I know it's the first game of the season, but for both clubs, really good result. Really good result too. And how good was it to see Tipper back?
Yeah.
When those dreadlocks are flowing and he slotted that goal, that's what the game is all about. We pick on people and we put, people on pedestals, but they're the little stories that just make you go, best sport in the world. So it was a great game, and I'll leave all the Hawthorn stuff to you because I don't know where you can go with this. What's this saying about Mitchell's plan? How much more of this can you take? Are you prepared to wait it all out? I'm throwing it over to you because I'm not even going to mention it.
I'd love to know where Mitchell's brain is at, because this man, and you'll agree with me with this, mate, he is one of the best players by foot and hand we've seen in the last 20 years. Is that fair, or is that a biased take?
Which one?
Mitchell, as a player.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I still think he stole Job's Brownlow. No, I'm joking. I'm joking, Hawks fans. I don't want to start that one. He was brilliant.
Just unreal
easily
disposal user. Yeah. He has inherited a team in which none of them can kick. It's extraordinary how basic skill errors, because credit to the Bombers. They were fantastic. They punished every mistake. But I'm seeing, and I don't want to name blokes, but I'm going to, Will Day, Connor McDonald, CJ, who I love, Dylan Moore on occasion, but probably a bit stiff to be included in this group. The ability to kick off one step and thinking that you can hit guys to advantage is extraordinary. They've earned none of the credits to think that this is all right, mate. But the amount of 30-meter kicks that were not hitting targets was just extraordinary. And Hawthorn, there's a thing on Talking Hawks that, and fellow friend of the channel, Smithy, has come up with the Hawk Highway. So the Hawk Highway is simply the Hawks want to use the corridor wherever they can get onto the highway, into the corridor, they're going to use at every opportunity, which is great. Until, like a highway, highways only go one way, my friend, because you eventually got to turn around. If you go the wrong way, you got to turn around and drive down the other end of the highway, and the Hawks don't want to do that. They'll turn the ball over, Essendon will sprint, and the Hawks will jog. And the corridor was just opened up so many times. Essendon were able to use that forward handball, and outside of James Sicily, Cam McKenzie, who I thought was outstanding with a level of composure not seen by a lot of young guys in the center of the ground. I think Josh Ward can put his hand up, say he was pretty good. The same as Jimmy Warple. Geez, outside of those, not a lot of Hawks will be able to put their hand up. And there are a couple of guys that are out of contract at the end of the year that right now would be thinking to themselves, I wonder what job I'll be having next year.
Jeez, you've gone early at round one.
Yep.
Look, I didn't see a lot of the game.
Lucky you.
I did see towards. Look, I'll put it this way: when I saw what was happening with the score, I went, I don't think I want to see this, because then I just watch Essendon supporters with their flags and old Bethel sitting at the front row going, no, Hurdy, and I don't need all that. But I look at Hawthorn and I go, Auskick.
Yeah.
When you go to Auskick and you teach kids, it's always okay. What you do is you take two or three steps, get that forward momentum in the direction where you want to kick the ball, and then kick it.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you do that, majority of the time, it's going to go in that direction. If it does come off the side of the boot, so be it. When you're kicking off one step, unless you've got a cannon for a leg, a.k.a. Stewie Jew style, you've got no momentum.
Correct.
And a lot of the time, you're also going to lean back on the ball, which is going to mean the ball's going to go up in the air, which means the backman can go clunk at the back. Or you overreach and you caterpillar it.
Yep.
You got to get that out of your system. And I remember when Mark Williams came to the D's, we had to go all the way back to kicking classes because he said your disposal is putrid.
True. Yep. Correct.
And they had to go back and learn literally how to kick again because it wasn't good enough for AFL standard. Isn't it amazing? Kicking around the ground and goal kicking, two things which you think are vital to surviving this game. But we spend so much time on tactics. We spend so much time on the defensive side of things. Yeah. But two fundamentals of the game we do not spend enough time on. And the teams that do are the ones you can see happen on game day when their ball movement is slick, their running is slick, and their goal kicking is slick. Another thing I have to point out, whatever Luke Brewster's made of, can you get that DNA?
Yeah, can we bottle that?
Can you bottle that, please? Because when I heard he was your highest goal kicker again today, he's going to have to play until he's 80.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way that you're going to be scoring.
He's still in my opinion, the best in the league at getting his opponent under the footy. Luke Brewster.
I don't care what he does, because if he keeps doing what he's doing, that's why I was shattered when Gunston left. But Gunston saw the writing was on the wall.
28 goals to 500 for Punky. Rare for a small forward.
And deserves it. Like I said, the best small forward ever, and you're not going to like it when I say this, is, in my humble opinion, Stephen Milne.
Milne.
Stephen Milne.
That's fair.
Cyril, from a different perspective. So as a high-pressure impact forward, Cyril, no doubt.
Yeah.
I could go the Wiz. I could go Aaron Davey. I could go those ones as well too. But from a small forwards perspective, I just love Stephen Milne.
Yeah.
Kicks 10. Most. I think he's kicked 570 goals. It's a massive number. But the point is that this guy is going to go down. He'll be in that because he's just so reliable. 3 flags, snaps and claps to Mr. Bruce.
Absolutely. So in my mind, since 2000, it's a 5 and then daylight. I don't have Stevie J as a small forward in this conversation, but Milne, Betts, Wiz, Cyril, and Punky, and I was lucky enough to see 2 of them for my team. Abundantly spoiled. The last one for Essendon that I want to give credit to, because we like giving credit to the winners just before we move on. Jake Kelly. He's a guy that is just going to completely go under the radar. I understand that, but I genuinely thought that he was the marshal across that back line. He put his body on I think he did more things not on the stat sheet than any other player in this game. So a little bit of love for the former Crow. As we move on to the last game, mate. Now, speaking of disasters, I can't think of an under 4-goal loss in recent memory that was worse than this one.
Is this just Freo? Is a Freo-esque effort, isn't this? This is just Freo.
I'm convinced Ross Lyon coached both of these teams somehow. I don't know how he's done it, but he coached them both because neither team wanted to score. The good thing is that when St Kilda went forward with purpose, they had smalls around the ball. Freo had no one.
Oh God!
It's
I must admit,
bad.
I didn't see much of this, and I don't think I need to, because all I can do is just read and watch the highlights and get a perfect idea of what this was. It would have been an arm wrestle. It was probably perfect conditions under the roof, and it was literally the one who wanted to win it just a little bit more won it. Yep. I don't. We talk about where's West Coast, where's Fremantle. Like, I had them in the 8.
Yeah,
I thought that they would smash St Kilda, smash them. I was wrong. I think definitely wrong on Fife from what you have mentioned.
Yep.
I don't know if it's just that first game blitz. Want to impress the coach. First game from St Kilda and Bradford St Kilda supporters. Funny enough, they kicked 10 goals 7. Like, how accurate is that? 7 goals 10. Bad kicking's bad football. Perfect example of it. Same kicking. We could have had another draw. We could have bookended draws.
Will Brodie and Luke Jackson, had some bad misses. But here's my point about Freo before we move on to the Saints. Now, there are going to be people, and probably Freo fans, in my comments going, Daz, Supercoach doesn't mean anything. I understand that. But I'm going to read to you, mate, the top 8. 1, 2, 3, 4. The top 8 Supercoach scorers for Freo, and you tell me what they've all got in common, okay?
All right.
Luke Ryan, 171. Brennan Cox, 154. Hayden Young, 137. Jordan Clark, 100. Sean Darcy's the outlier with 96, so we'll move past him. Alex Pearce, 92. Heath Chapman, 90. And Nathan Wilson, 83. What have they all got in common, my
friend?
Did
you just name their backline?
Correct.
You literally have named their backline.
Yep.
So what are they doing? Are they chipping it to themselves? Are they racking points up? Are they... When I watched them play a final last year, when they won the one against the Western Bulldogs, which was sensational, like the one that they shouldn't have won at all, and they came back and I think they played, I've got to remember this, was it Geelong the week after?
Collingwood.
I've never seen a team so stagnant in their ball movement.
Yeah.
Like their ball movement was stuck in the past. It was nothing. It was always go back. Always switch to the other side. There was no attacking through the middle. There was no crossover. There was no almost running, leading patterns. There wasn't the off angle. It was so predictable, so slow. And it looks like, looking at that result, it's the same thing. They just chip it around. They don't take the game on. If that is what's happened round 1 against St Kilda of all teams, they're in strife. And I didn't think that would happen this year. Like I said, I tipped them to make the 8. They could be the opposite of me saying Collingwood will miss it.
Bang.
But good on, congratulations to St Kilda. Let's focus on those guys.
Yeah, absolutely. So the things that we liked, the things that I liked from the Saints, mate, and this is something I can't really say for a St Kilda team recently, and I mean that with no respect of the coaches and such that were there, they were tough. They were tougher around the ball for the entire game, pretty much. And I'm not talking it was Jack Steele on his own. Jack Steele, for mine, was probably their second best mid. I thought Brad Crouch was great. But Mason Wood showed toughness around the contest that, frankly, I never saw at North.
And you know what? That's what I was about to say. That he left. I couldn't believe North got rid of him. Great pickup by St Kilda. I think he was on their rookie list. Or still might be on their rookie list.
Yeah.
But he's just taken that opportunity. Max King's not there. Memory's not playing. This is an opportunity for me to do something.
Yeah.
Mate, you don't have to always be putting them through the big sticks. If you're throwing your body in, if you're making contests and allowing people to get the spillage, like you have a look at the best players, virtually all midfielders, except obviously for Big Rowan Marshall. That's what you want. You want those guys to be around. And I can tell you now, once again, within the four walls, that'll be something that they play and go, Woody, this is what we need. Don't worry about that stuff. We'll work that out later on. If you do this every week, you're going to make it really difficult for me to not play her.
Yeah. I loved the Marshall v. Darcy battle a lot. But the guys that probably aren't going to play if all their team was fit, Ryan Burns, Jack Bytel, these guys that were just around the footy, hungry. Gresham was great in that last quarter, did well. Jack Higgins had some nice moments around the ball. But all in all, the Saints, look, they're going to be tough to play. And that's the first thing you want from a team that we don't think is going to play finals, but they're off to a great start.
Well,
the other
their coach?
A lot of credit. Another hyphen.
It's Ross Lyon. It's Ross Lyon, isn't it?
But Nazaya Wanganeen Miller.
Yep.
Oh, this boy's got some tricks. Took all the kick-outs, which was really handy. And, geez, doesn't he love the chip to the pocket, the 1-2, the take-off, which we love. But I think for the Saints, this was as well-rounded a Ross Lyon coaching effort and player-driven game that I think I've seen from them in a long, long time. And I don't think any Saints fan can walk away. They don't care about the scoreboard. They don't care about the way the game looked. They care about the fact that they're in the 8 tonight. They're away with a win, and they've beaten a side that everyone projected to be better than them, minus probably 8 of their starting 18.
And the thing you also got to look at is, I don't know if you've watched the Drive to Survive show. The best thing about on Netflix, the best thing about Drive to Survive is they talk about the different teams, but the stuff with Red Bull and Mercedes, they're at the front of the grid. Like, you don't worry about the Rolls Royces. All the excitement is with the midfield teams, the lesser knowns. Yeah. You have a look at St Kilda now. Yeah, we know Steele's going to do it. We know Crouch is going to do it. We know Sinclair's going to do it. We know Marshall's going to do it. But then you have a look at these names. You got Mateus Philippou, first game, very serviceable. Josh Battle, serviceable as well too. Mitchie Owens, Bytel, Jimmy Webster, Dougal Howell. Like, they've brought a lot of these people into the club over the last number of years. That is going to be the difference between them, right? Because you know what you're going to get at the top.
Yeah.
You need to get that growth through the middle to the layer end if you want to take that step up the ladder. And that's the sort of thing that's going to be exciting to see. You still got, Dan Butler doesn't seem to be where he really needs to be. Snags Higgins still gets on the ball a bit, but could probably produce a bit more. But just to see some of those names that, getting that, like I said, Wanganeen Malera he's a ripper. Liam Stocker, Carlton booted him. Yeah. He's come in, he's had 20 odd, 340 meters gained. He's only spent 77% of the game on the ground. All of that combined is the sum of all parts that is going to take a team from here to here. And we know Ross is a massive, you do your role and the result will work out for itself. As a perfect example of having a team that I thought had no chance today with the amount of injuries that they had, with no forward line whatsoever, to come out and beat a team that many were predicting to take that next step and launch themselves into a higher position in the 8. Great start for St Kilda. Not a great one for Freo, but I will a little bit of a shout out. One guy I just love watching every single time for Freo, Lockie Schultz. Yeah. I know he used to work for a mate of mine when he was a plumber before he came over and played footy, and he just seems to be getting better and better. He's really reliable in front of goal. Once again, led the goal kicking game for them today, but becoming a really crafty player, and he needs some more support around him. And like you said, Fife isn't going to do it. Jackson's not going to do it. I think the lob not being there is going to be a big loss for them as well too. But for Lockie Schultz, you're a reliable guy who's going to kick you 2 or 3 a week because he just doesn't give up Jeez, he loves a contest too.
He does. So the last man to give a bit of love to, Liam Henry, I think he's a guy under the pump this year. Thought he was really good today. That 23 on him looks really, really nice. But that's it, mate. All 9 games wrapped up. It's been a pleasure to have you on the channel, mate. You can plug your content one more time before we get out of here. But I've wanted to get you on for a little bit, mate, and I thought let's kick off the year with a bang with the great man yourself. So I thank you very much for coming on. Tell the people how we can find you, mate, and we'll wrap things up.
No, absolutely blessed to be here. Like I said, so lace out, because it's how you want your footy. Just look for the logo. It's on the podcast artwork. But more importantly, like I said, we go live Tuesday nights on our Facebook page, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, you name it. We've got our tips up there. Like I said, we just talk footy, just like Talking Hawks do, just like Daz does, like everybody does. We just hear, we talk footy, we love it. We just do it for everybody, for you guys. And it's more of an honour to be here because we just love footy. Hey, I love Essendon. I love Richmond. We have to love someone to hate. Otherwise, it'd be a very boring competition.
Yeah, really would be wanting everyone to succeed.
You've got to support, support channels like this because this is the real content. This is the stuff that does. It has the real bells and whistles. It has the real heart put into it because everything is here for the right reasons. And so get behind this guy because he is an absolute star. And it's been a pleasure to be on here. Just to chat about the game that I love so much.
It's been a pleasure to have you, mate. And to all the viewers that have made it this far, thank you so much. Whether it was in one viewing, multiple viewings, we appreciate it. Like the video if you like the video. Subscribe to join the Daz Talks Footy family. Comment below. Let us know what we got right or wrong. We get the feeling there's going to be plenty in there. But Peps,
there'll be a bit.
Thanks again, mate. Appreciate it heaps. And to all the fans out there, hope you enjoy your week. There are going to be midweek videos coming, of course, a lot shorter than this one, but the round reviews with the guests, you asked for it. We're going to deliver it here on Daz Talks Footy. And until next time, goodbye.